Welcome. Come and settle in. Find a soft place to let yourself sink into, and let the day you've carried begin to loosen its hold. There is nowhere to be, nothing to solve, nothing to hurry toward, only the slow, quiet company of worlds turning in the dark. Tonight, we drift gently away from Earth, past the familiar blue, past the soft curve of our atmosphere, past the pale light of the moon, and out into the stillness that our planet has always been a part of. Out there, 8 worlds and countless smaller ones have been wheeling around a single warm star for more than 4.5 billion years. Tonight, we will wander among them, slowly, without hurry, one quiet fact at a time. You don't have to remember any of this. You don't have to follow every word. You can let the sound become a river that carries you, and if you drift off somewhere between Mercury and the edge of the Kuiper Belt, that is the best thing that could happen. These worlds have been here a long time. They will keep turning whether you are awake or dreaming. So let your shoulders soften, let your breath grow slow, let the light in the room fade from your thoughts, and let us begin gently with the place where everything started. Let's begin. The Sun and the Solar System. Fact 1. Everything in our solar system was born from the same quiet cloud. About 4.5 billion years ago, somewhere in a soft corner of the Milky Way, a vast cloud of gas and dust began to drift and settle. Astronomers call it the solar nebula. It was mostly hydrogen, a little helium, and just a whisper of heavier elements, the ash of older stars that had lived and died long before our Sun ever existed. Perhaps nudged by the shockwave of a distant supernova, part of that cloud began to gather in on itself. Gravity, which had been waiting patiently, finally had something to do. From that one collapsing whisper of gas came the Sun, the Earth, every planet we will visit tonight, and even the iron in your blood. A single cloud, a single beginning. One family, born together from the same gentle dark. Fact 2. As the cloud spun, it flattened into a vast, glowing disk. Imagine a ball of soft dough tossed gently into the air. As it spins, it stretches and flattens into a wide, thin sheet. The solar nebula did something very similar. As it collapsed under its own gravity, it began to rotate faster and faster, the way a skater pulls their arms in during a spin. All that spinning pulled the cloud outward at its middle and flat at its edges until it became a great disk called the protoplanetary disk. In the center, the densest part gathered into a young sun. Around it, dust and ice and gas swirled in delicate rings. Every planet we know formed inside that disk, from the same swirling material, orbiting in the same direction. This is why, even today, all the planets lie more or less in a single flat plane. They are still gliding along the shape of the cloud that made them. Fact 3. The Sun holds almost everything. The planets are just the leftovers. It is humbling, in a soft and wonderful way, to learn how much of the solar system is actually the Sun. If you gathered up every planet, every moon, every asteroid, every comet, every grain of dust, all of it together, you would still only have about 0.2% of the total mass. The other 99.8% is the Sun alone. Everything we have ever explored, every world that has ever been photographed or dreamed of, is a small crumb left on the table after the Sun finished forming. And yet from that small remainder, the universe managed to build forests and whales, and music and children, and the voice you are hearing now. The Sun may hold the weight, but the leftovers have done something rather lovely with what they were given. Fact 4. A quiet temperature line divided the rocky worlds from the icy ones. In the early solar system, the young sun was already warm, and that warmth did not reach all the way to the edge of the disk. Close to the sun, only rock and metal could stay solid. Farther out, past a soft, invisible boundary astronomers call the frost line, it was cold enough that water, methane, and ammonia could freeze into tiny grains. That made all the difference. Inside the line, the only building material was rocky dust, and so the planets that formed there stayed small, dense, and hard. Outside the line, there was much more material, and so the planets that formed there grew enormous. The split we see today, small rocky worlds near the sun and giant worlds farther out, is not an accident. It is the memory of a temperature line drawn gently through the disk long ago. Mercury. Fact 5. Mercury is the smallest planet, only a little larger than our Moon. After the Great Eight were named, Mercury became the runt of the family. With a radius of just over 1,500 miles, it is barely bigger than Earth's own moon and smaller than some of the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. From a distance, you might mistake it for one of those moons at a glance. But Mercury has a personality all its own. Despite its size, it is heavier than you would expect, because so much of it is made of iron. It has a vast metallic core that takes up about 85% of its radius, a proportion unmatched anywhere else in the solar system. A small ball, cratered and grey, with an enormous iron heart inside, orbiting quietly closer to the sun than anything else we call a planet. Small, dense, and older than almost anything you can name. Fact 6. A single day on Mercury lasts nearly 2 of its years. Here is one of the gentlest strange things about Mercury. Even though the planet orbits the sun in just 88 Earth days, it spins very slowly on its axis. One full solar day, from sunrise to sunrise, takes 176 Earth days. That is almost exactly 2 Mercurian years. In other words, on Mercury, a day is longer than a year. If you stood on its surface and watched the sun rise, you could wait out an entire full orbit around the sun, and then another before the sun rose again in the same place. And because of the strange rhythm between its orbit and its spin, from some parts of Mercury the sun would appear to rise briefly, pause, slide backward for a while, and then move forward again. A hesitant sunrise, a sky that seems uncertain. Fact 7. Mercury has the most extreme temperature swings of any planet. Because Mercury has almost no atmosphere, it has no blanket to hold the sun's heat at night or shield its surface during the day. The result is a world of startling extremes. During the long Mercurian day, temperatures on the sunlit side can climb to 800 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. But as soon as that part of the surface rotates into darkness, the heat simply escapes into space, and the temperature plunges to nearly 300 degrees below zero. The difference, from day to night, is more than 1,000 degrees. No other planet swings so dramatically between fire and ice. And yet, even in that harsh rhythm, Mercury is not chaotic. It has been doing this, the long heat and the long cold, for billions of years, and it will keep doing it long after we are gone. Fact 8. There is ice hidden in Mercury's darkest craters, even now. This is one of the quiet wonders of our solar system. Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun, still has frozen water on it. The answer lies in its craters. Mercury's axis is almost perfectly upright, with almost no tilt at all. That means that in the deepest craters near its north and south poles, sunlight has never reached the floor, not once, in billions of years. Those shadows are some of the coldest places in the solar system, colder than Pluto, colder than almost anywhere we can name. And inside them, protected forever from the sun, water ice has quietly gathered. It may have come from comets, or from chemical reactions on the surface, or from both. There is ice there on Mercury. The closest planet to the Sun is also one of the few places still holding on to its water. Venus. Fact 9. Venus is nearly Earth's twin in size, but its life has been very different. If you lined up Earth and Venus next to each other, you would barely be able to tell them apart at first glance. Venus is only slightly smaller, only slightly less massive. Its rocky composition, its iron core, its general shape, all remarkably similar to our own. For a long time, people imagined Venus might be a warm, tropical world, hidden under its thick white clouds, perhaps full of swamps and oceans. But when spacecraft finally got close, they found a different story entirely. Venus is hot, dry and crushing. Somewhere in the past, two planets that started out so alike took completely different paths, and only one of them remained gentle. Venus's story is a quiet reminder that nothing about a living world is guaranteed. A planet can be close to its twin and still become something utterly its own. Fact 10. Venus is the hottest planet in the entire solar system. This surprises many people at first because Mercury is closer to the Sun. And yet the hottest world is Venus, with an average surface temperature of around 870 degrees Fahrenheit. It is hot enough everywhere all the time to melt lead. There is no cool side, no night relief, no shaded valleys or high peaks where the air turns crisp. The entire surface, from pole to pole, day or night, stays at roughly the same scorching temperature. This is because of a thick, trapping atmosphere made almost entirely of carbon dioxide, which acts like a heavy, closed lid over the whole planet. Sunlight passes through it, warms the surface, and then cannot escape back into space. Heat builds and builds and builds. Venus is a world that has forgotten how to cool. Fact 11. Venus's clouds are not made of water, but of sulfuric acid. From far away, Venus looks beautiful. Its clouds reflect sunlight brilliantly, making it one of the brightest objects in our night sky. But those soft white clouds, so innocent looking from a distance, are made of droplets of sulfuric acid. They do not fall as rain in the way Earth's rain does. The acid droplets drift slowly downward through the atmosphere and evaporate long before they ever reach the surface, because the lower atmosphere is too hot even for acid to remain liquid. The sky of Venus, if you could stand beneath it, would likely glow a soft sulfur yellow, thick and heavy, with no clear blue anywhere. And yet, for all their harshness, those high clouds are also the only place on Venus where temperatures are roughly Earth-like. A strange kind of beauty, wrapped in a planet that does not welcome visitors. Fact 12. Venus spins backward, so the sun rises in the west there. Most of the planets in the solar system rotate in the same direction they orbit the sun. Venus does not. Venus rotates in the opposite direction, slowly and gently, so that if you could stand on its surface and if you could see through its clouds, you would watch the sun rise in the west and set in the east. No one is entirely sure why. Some scientists believe a massive impact long ago may have flipped Venus over or slowed it so much that its rotation reversed. Others think the thick atmosphere and the sun's pull may have, over billions of years, dragged its spin the other way. Whatever happened, Venus has gone against the grain ever since. A soft, backward world, turning the wrong way, under clouds no one from outside has ever seen through unaided. Fact 13. A day on Venus is longer than its year. Here is one of those gentle pieces of cosmic strangeness that never stops being wonderful. Venus rotates so slowly, once every 243 Earth days, that its day is actually longer than the time it takes to orbit the Sun, which is only 225 Earth days. In other words, if you lived on Venus, a year would be shorter than a single rotation of your own planet. Because Venus rotates backward, and because of the combined motion of its orbit and spin, the time from one sunrise to the next on Venus comes out to about 117 Earth days. A day there is not a dance of morning and evening. It is a very long, slow breath. Sunrise in one season, sunset in another, a world where time itself seems to have slowed down. Earth. Fact 14. Earth is the only world we know of where life has taken root. In all the worlds we have studied, in all the vast catalogue of stars and planets we have mapped, only one has ever answered the question of whether life exists. Only one. Our own. Everything you have ever loved, every creature that has ever lived, every forest and ocean and thought and feeling, all of it has happened here on this single pale blue world. We may, one day, find signs of tiny microbes beneath the ice of a distant moon, or traces of ancient biology on Mars. But for now, Earth stands alone. A single living planet, small and bright, drifting through a very large silence. This is not a sad thought. It is a quiet, almost tender one. Whatever you carry, whatever you hope for, you are part of the only place in the known universe that has ever dreamed. Fact 15. More than 70% of Earth's surface is covered in liquid water. Our planet is, more than anything else, an ocean world. Seen from space, Earth looks more blue than brown or green. The continents are almost small by comparison. Islands adrift in a great connected sea. Earth sits in a gentle zone around the Sun, not too close, not too far, where water can remain liquid without boiling away or freezing solid. This is sometimes called the habitable zone, or the Goldilocks zone, because everything about our distance from the Sun feels just right. Liquid water is one of the quiet miracles of the solar system. Mercury has ice in shadow. Mars had rivers long ago. Europa and Enceladus hide oceans beneath thick shells of ice. But only Earth, as far as we know, has oceans open to the sky, holding tides, reflecting moonlight, giving home to life. Fact 16. Our atmosphere is perfectly balanced for breathing. The air around you, the air you are breathing right now, is about 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and a small mixture of other gases. That mixture did not have to be this way. For most of Earth's history, the atmosphere had almost no oxygen at all. It took billions of years of ancient microbes slowly exhaling their waste gas into the sky for oxygen to build up to the level we now enjoy. Plants, long after, continued the work. Our atmosphere also acts as a gentle shield, protecting the surface from the sun's harshest radiation, burning up most meteors before they reach the ground, and holding just enough warmth to keep us from freezing. A thin, blue layer, only about 60 miles deep, doing the quiet work of keeping everything alive. Fact 17. Earth's moon was likely born in a great collision. Long ago, when our planet was very young, another world roughly the size of Mars came wandering into Earth's path. Astronomers have given this lost world a name, Theia, after the Greek goddess who was the mother of the moon. When Theia struck the young Earth, the impact was catastrophic. Vast amounts of molten rock and hot gas were flung into space. Over time, that debris gathered into orbit, cooled, and slowly pulled itself together into the moon we know. Lunar rocks brought back by the Apollo missions show that the moon is chemically very similar to Earth, which fits this quiet, violent origin story. The moon was not simply given to us. It was born alongside us, out of a collision that reshaped our whole world. And ever since, it has kept Earth steady, softening our axis, gentling our climate, lighting our nights. Fact 18. The moon is slowly drifting away from Earth. Every year, the moon moves about 1.5 inches farther from us. This is very slow, but it has been going on for billions of years. The reason is the ocean tides. As the moon pulls gently on Earth's oceans, the resulting tidal bulges give the moon a small forward push, which nudges it into a slightly higher orbit. In the distant past, when the moon was much closer, it must have looked enormous in the sky, and the tides it raised would have been tremendous. In the far future, billions of years from now, it will appear smaller than it does tonight. We are living at a particular moment in a very slow separation. The moon above you now is exactly the right distance to cover the sun during a total eclipse, a coincidence that may not last forever. Right now, it does. Mars. Fact 19. Mars is the red planet because of rust. Mars was named by the ancient Romans for their god of war, because its reddish color reminded them of blood and fire. But the real reason Mars looks red is much gentler than violence. Its surface is covered in fine dust rich in iron, and that iron has slowly oxidized, rusted over billions of years, just as an old iron pan left out in the rain will turn a soft orange. Mars is, in essence, a rusting world. The sky above it is often a pale pink or butterscotch color, because that same iron-rich dust is constantly suspended in its thin atmosphere. Sunsets on Mars are actually blue, a strange, quiet reversal of our own evening skies. A planet named for war, but whose colors come from the slow, peaceful chemistry of iron, oxygen, and time. Fact 20. Mars is home to the largest volcano in the solar system. On Mars stands a mountain called Olympus Mons. It is so enormous that from its base to its summit it rises about 16 miles into the thin Martian sky, nearly 3 times the height of Mount Everest, measured from sea level. Its base covers an area roughly the size of the state of Arizona. If you were standing on it, you probably wouldn't even realize you were climbing a mountain, because the slopes are so gentle. The curve of the planet would hide the summit far below the horizon. Olympus Mons grew so large because Mars has no moving tectonic plates like Earth does. On our world, volcanoes drift away from their hot spots over time. On Mars, lava erupted from the same place for hundreds of millions of years, building layer upon quiet layer into the tallest mountain in our solar system. Fact 21. Mars once had rivers, lakes, and possibly oceans. Today, Mars is a cold, dry desert. But billions of years ago, it was a very different world. Ancient riverbeds wind across its surface. Dried delta fans spread where rivers once met standing water. Lake basins hold sediments that could only have formed underwater. Some scientists believe a vast ocean may have once covered its northern hemisphere. The rover Perseverance is currently exploring Jezero Crater, a place that used to be a lake fed by a river, collecting rock samples that may one day come back to Earth to be studied. What happened to all that water? Most of it was lost to space over hundreds of millions of years as Mars's atmosphere gradually thinned. Some remains, frozen beneath the surface and in the polar ice caps. The red planet we see today is the quiet ghost of a younger, wetter world. Fact 22. Mars has two small potato-shaped moons. Mars's two moons are named Phobos and Deimos, after the Greek words for fear and dread, the mythical companions of the war god Ares. Unlike our own smooth, round moon, Phobos and Deimos are tiny, lumpy, and irregular, shaped more like potatoes than spheres. Most astronomers believe they are captured asteroids, drawn in from the asteroid belt long ago by Mars's gravity. Phobos, the larger of the two, is slowly spiraling inward. In roughly 50 million years, it will either crash into Mars or be torn apart by Mars's gravity to form a delicate temporary ring. Deimos is drifting the other way, slowly moving outward. Two small, strange companions circling a rusted desert world. They are among the smallest moons in the solar system, but they are still, in their quiet way, worlds of their own. Fact 23. Mars is the only planet inhabited entirely by robots. There is something wonderful and a little tender about this. Mars, at this moment, is home to no living thing that we know of, no plants, no animals, not a single microbe we can confirm. But it is busy. Spacecraft from Earth have been exploring Mars for decades. Rovers like Curiosity and Perseverance roll slowly across its dust, taking photographs, drilling into rocks, listening to the wind, measuring the sky. There are landers studying the weather, orbiters mapping the surface, and a little helicopter, Ingenuity, that once flew briefly through the thin Martian air before becoming grounded. Every one of these machines was built on Earth by human hands, and every one of them is now quietly doing science on another world. Mars today is a planet run by curiosity in both senses of the word, a rusted desert where our robots live. The asteroid belt. Fact 24. Between Mars and Jupiter lies a scattered ring of rocky leftovers. Out beyond the orbit of Mars, before you reach Jupiter, there is a vast region of space filled with millions of small rocky bodies. Astronomers call it the asteroid belt. It is a kind of unfinished planet, or rather, the raw material of a planet that never formed. Early in the solar system's history, the gravity of mighty Jupiter stirred this region so violently that the debris could never gather itself together into a single world. And so the asteroid belt remains scattered, a reminder of what might have been. Despite how it is often drawn in films, the belt is mostly empty. On average, individual asteroids are millions of miles apart. A spacecraft could sail through for days without seeing a single one. It is less a crowded field and more a very quiet ring of wandering stones, drifting slowly in the dark. Fact 25. Ceres is a dwarf planet hidden inside the asteroid belt. The largest object in the asteroid belt is a small round world called Ceres. About 600 miles across, it is big enough that its own gravity has pulled it into a sphere, and in 2006 it was officially classified as a dwarf planet. Ceres is thought to hold a great deal of water, perhaps a quarter of its mass, locked in a thick layer of ice beneath a dusty crust. NASA's Dawn spacecraft, which arrived in 2015, discovered strange bright spots inside a crater called Okator, shining against the dark surface. They turned out to be salt deposits left behind when a briny, slushy liquid from deep inside Ceres rose to the surface and froze. A tiny world, quiet and cold, that may still be holding an ocean in its heart, half rock, half ice. The belt's largest wanderer. Fact 26. Vesta is a protoplanet, a world that almost became a planet. The second largest object in the asteroid belt is Vesta. It is smaller than Ceres, about 330 miles across, and it is not quite round, more of a bumpy, slightly squashed shape. But Vesta is a remarkable little world. It has a metal core, a rocky mantle, and a crust, much like the inner planets. It is, in effect, a protoplanet. a world that was well on its way to becoming a full planet when the process stopped. One of its enormous impact craters, Rhea Silvia, is so large that its central mountain rises over 14 miles, making it one of the tallest mountains in the solar system. Fragments knocked off Vesta by ancient impacts have found their way to Earth as meteorites. We have been holding pieces of Vesta in our hands long before we knew what they were. Jupiter. Fact 27. Jupiter is more massive than all the other planets combined. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system by a tremendous margin. If you gathered up all the other 7 planets, every moon, every asteroid, every comet, and weighed them together, Jupiter would still be more than twice as massive. Over 1,300 Earths could fit inside it. Jupiter is so massive that it does not quite orbit the Sun, not really. Both Jupiter and the Sun orbit a shared point that lies just outside the Sun's surface. This makes Jupiter almost a failed star. If it had been about 80 times more massive, it could have begun fusing hydrogen in its core and become a companion star to our Sun. It is a giant among giants, the silent king of the planets, and its gravity has shaped the entire family ever since the solar system was young. Fact 28. The Great Red Spot is a storm larger than Earth and older than most. On Jupiter's southern hemisphere sits a swirling oval of deep red cloud. It is the Great Red Spot, a storm so vast that the entire Earth could fit inside it. Astronomers have been watching this storm for at least 350 years, possibly longer. In the 19th century, it was large enough to hold 2 Earths across. Today, for reasons no one fully understands, it is slowly shrinking, becoming rounder and smaller with each passing decade. But it is still enormous and still fierce. Recent observations from NASA's Juno spacecraft revealed that the roots of the Great Red Spot reach hundreds of miles deep into Jupiter's atmosphere, 50 to 100 times deeper than Earth's oceans. A single storm, older than most nations on our planet, churning quietly in the cloud tops of a world far from here. Fact 29. Jupiter has no solid surface, only endless cloud and fluid. If you tried to land on Jupiter, you would find nothing to land on. Its beautiful bands of cream, orange and brown are just the top of an atmosphere thousands of miles deep. As you descended, the air would grow thicker and hotter. Eventually, the atmosphere would blend seamlessly into an ocean of liquid hydrogen, stretching down for tens of thousands of miles. Deeper still, under crushing pressures, that liquid hydrogen would become something called metallic hydrogen, a strange form of matter that conducts electricity like a metal. At Jupiter's very centre, there may be a hot, diffuse core, but it is not solid in any way we would recognize. Jupiter is a world without a flaw, a place that is not made of rock or ground, but only of weather, going all the way down. Fact 30. Io is the most volcanically active world in the solar system. Jupiter has many moons, but 4 of them are especially famous. They are the Galilean moons, first seen by Galileo in 1610, and each one is a world in its own right. The innermost, Io, is perhaps the strangest. Its surface is covered in hundreds of active volcanoes, some of them shooting plumes of sulfur and other materials hundreds of miles into space. Io looks, in photographs, like a cosmic pizza, yellow and orange and splashed with dark patches. All this volcanism comes from a gentle, endless squeeze. Io is caught between the enormous gravity of Jupiter and the pull of its sister moons, and that tug-of-war flexes its interior constantly, generating tremendous heat. There is no other place in the solar system quite like Io. a moon that can never cool down. Fact 31. Europa hides a salty ocean beneath its icy shell. The second of Jupiter's Galilean moons is Europa, and it is one of the most tantalizing places we know. From the outside, Europa looks smooth and pale, covered in a cracked crust of water ice. But beneath that icy shell, scientists are nearly certain, lies a vast global ocean of liquid water. In fact, Europa may hold more liquid water than all of Earth's oceans combined. Warmed by gravitational flexing from Jupiter, kept liquid by the weight of ice above, this hidden ocean is one of the most promising places in the solar system to search for life beyond Earth. NASA's Europa Clipper spacecraft, launched in 2024, is now on its way to explore it. A silent, dark ocean, older than anything we know, wrapped in ice and starlight. We do not yet know what may be swimming there. Fact 32. Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system. Ganymede is so large that it would be a planet in its own right if it orbited the Sun directly instead of Jupiter. It is bigger than the planet Mercury and much bigger than our own moon. Ganymede has a rocky core, an icy mantle, and, astonishingly, its own magnetic field, the only moon known to have one. It is also thought to hide a salty ocean deep beneath its crust, one of several layered oceans stacked between sheets of ice. When you look at Ganymede, you're looking at a moon with mountains, craters, dark, ancient plains, and bright, younger terrain. A small, frozen world with a rich, complicated geology all its own. Giant among Jupiter's family, circling patiently in the cold. If it were not a moon, it would certainly be called a world. Saturn. Fact 33. Saturn's rings are made almost entirely of water ice. Saturn is, for many people, the most beautiful planet in the solar system. Its rings stretch nearly 170,000 miles across, but they are astonishingly thin, only about 30 feet thick in most places. If you could scale the rings down to the thickness of a piece of paper, they would be the size of a football field. The rings are made up of countless chunks of water ice, ranging from tiny grains as fine as dust to boulders the size of houses, and a few as big as mountains. Each piece is orbiting Saturn on its own path, so the rings are not solid at all, but a vast flat crowd of tiny moons, all shining in the sunlight. From far away, they look smooth and serene. Up close, they are a quiet, endless flurry of ice. Fact 34. Saturn would float if you could find a bathtub large enough. Here is a lovely thought experiment. Saturn is a gas giant, made mostly of hydrogen and helium, and because of this, it has a surprisingly low density, actually lower than water. If you could somehow find a bathtub big enough to hold Saturn, and if you set the planet gently on the water, it would float. Of course, such a bathtub is impossible, and Saturn would quickly fall apart under its own gravity without its pressure holding it together. But the image is a soft and delightful one. A massive ringed world floating quietly on a pond, the rings touching the surface of the water. Among the 8 planets, only Saturn has this strange, dreamlike property. The second largest world in the solar system is also the lightest, pound for pound. A great, puffed-up thing of gas and cloud, gleaming softly in the sunlight. Fact 35. A strange hexagon-shaped storm swirls over Saturn's north pole. One of the most mysterious features on Saturn was discovered only when spacecraft began flying past it. At its north pole, a vast, persistent jet stream flows in the shape of a perfect hexagon. Each of its 6 sides is about 8,000 miles long, longer than the diameter of Earth. The whole pattern spans about 20,000 miles across. Inside the hexagon, a huge storm rotates at its center with winds of 200 miles per hour. No other planet is known to have anything like it. Scientists believe the hexagon is caused by a complex interaction between Saturn's rotation and the flow of its atmosphere, but the exact reason why it forms such a clean, six-sided shape is still not fully understood. A perfect geometric storm, larger than Earth, spinning slowly at the top of a ringed world.
Fact 36. Titan is the only moon with a thick atmosphere.
Saturn's largest moon, Titan, is one of the most Earth-like places in the solar system, even though it is nothing like Earth at all. Titan is larger than the planet Mercury. It has a thick, hazy orange atmosphere, mostly nitrogen, much like our own. But Titan is extremely cold, about -290 degrees Fahrenheit. At those temperatures, methane and ethane can exist as liquids. So Titan has rivers, and lakes, and seas, just not of water. Hydrocarbons rain from its skies, flow across its surface, gather in vast cold lakes near its poles, and evaporate back into the clouds in a slow, alien cycle. The Huygens probe, dropped from Cassini in 2005, landed softly on Titan's surface, making it the most distant landing humans have ever accomplished. An orange world with dark seas under a slow rain of fuel. Fact 37. Enceladus shoots geysers of water into space. Saturn has another moon worth knowing. Enceladus is small, only about 300 miles across, but it is brilliantly white, reflecting almost all the sunlight that falls on it. In 2005, the Cassini spacecraft made a stunning discovery. From deep fissures near Enceladus's south pole, called the Tiger Stripes, huge plumes of water vapor and ice were shooting into space. Cassini even flew through these plumes and sampled them directly. Beneath Enceladus's icy shell, there is a global ocean of liquid salt water, warmed by gentle tidal flexing from Saturn. The plumes carry organic compounds and even the ingredients for amino acids. This tiny moon may be one of the most habitable places in the entire solar system. A warm, salty sea hiding beneath bright ice, quietly spraying itself into the stars. Fact 38. The Cassini mission ended with a graceful fall into Saturn. NASA's Cassini spacecraft arrived at Saturn in 2004 and spent 13 years exploring the planet and its moons. By 2017, it was running low on fuel. Mission planners faced a careful decision. They could not risk the spacecraft one day crashing into Enceladus or Titan, potentially contaminating those possibly habitable worlds with Earth microbes that might still be clinging to it. So they chose what they called the grand finale. Cassini made 22 daring dives between Saturn and its innermost ring, gathering unprecedented data, and then, on September 15, 2017, it was sent on a final plunge into Saturn's atmosphere. It transmitted data all the way down until the pressure tore it apart. The spacecraft's last act, one of protection and grace, giving itself to the planet it had come so far to understand. Uranus. Fact 39. Uranus spins on its side. Every planet tilts a little as it orbits the Sun. Earth is tilted about 23 degrees, which is why we have seasons. Mars, Saturn and Neptune have similar small tilts. But Uranus is tilted at 98 degrees. It is essentially lying on its side, rolling around the Sun like a ball being pushed across a table. Most scientists believe this strange orientation is the result of an ancient, massive collision long ago, when a protoplanet, roughly the size of Earth, struck Uranus and knocked it over. The collision was so violent that not only was the planet tipped, but its moons and rings, all ended up orbiting around its new sideways axis. A quiet, sky-blue world lying down in its orbit, spinning gently in the wrong direction. Nothing else in our solar system does what Uranus does.
Fact 40. Each pole on Uranus has a 42-year-long day, and then a 42-year-long night.
Because Uranus is tilted so sharply, its seasons are unlike any on Earth. As the planet moves along its orbit, first one pole and then the other points almost directly at the Sun. When it is summer at the North Pole of Uranus, that pole experiences a single day that lasts for 42 Earth years. The Sun does not set. It circles slowly overhead, season after season, year after year. Then, as Uranus continues its long, slow orbit, the Sun gradually moves to the other side of the sky, and the North Pole begins a 42-year night. An entire lifetime could be spent in a single Uranian summer. A generation could pass in one long polar dawn. Time on Uranus does not measure itself in the small rhythms of Earth. It stretches and stretches and stretches.
Fact 41. Uranus is the coldest planet in the solar system.
You might expect Neptune, which is farther from the Sun, to be colder than Uranus. Surprisingly, it is not. The cloud tops of Uranus drop to a temperature of about minus 224 degrees Celsius, colder than any other planet. No one is entirely sure why. One theory is that the same ancient collision that knocked Uranus sideways may also have disturbed the planet's ability to release internal heat, leaving it quietly dimmer than its siblings. Whatever the cause, Uranus is a gentle, still, exceptionally cold world. Its pale blue-green color, tinted by methane in its atmosphere, seems somehow appropriate for a place that is so deeply quiet. A soft, icy, motionless giant, holding its cold patiently, floating far from the warmth of the Sun. Fact 42. The moons of Uranus are named after Shakespeare. Every other planet's moons are named for figures from Greek and Roman mythology. But Uranus is different. Its moons carry names from the works of William Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. The five largest are Miranda, Ariel, Umbriel, Titania, and Oberon. Titania and Oberon are the king and queen of the fairies from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Miranda is the young heroine of The Tempest. There is something gentle and poetic about this. Scattered across the solar system, we have named craters for artists, and moons for mythological figures, and plains for mountains we miss. Around Uranus, we have given the tiny cold worlds the names of characters from stories about love and tempests and dreams. 28 little Shakespearean moons, spinning around a blue-green world tipped on its side, very far from the theatre. Neptune. Fact 43. Neptune was discovered through mathematics before it was ever seen. In the early 19th century, astronomers noticed that Uranus was not orbiting quite the way Newton's laws predicted it should. Something was gently tugging on it, pulling it slightly off course. A French mathematician named Urbain Le Verrier worked out, using only pen, paper and equations, where an unseen planet would have to be to cause these small deviations. He sent his calculations to an observatory in Berlin. And on the very first night they looked, in September 1846, they found a faint blue disk exactly where Le Verrier had said it should be. Neptune was the first planet discovered through mathematics rather than direct observation. A whole world, predicted first on paper. The universe turned out to be kind enough to place the real planet right where the numbers said it had to be.
Fact 44. Neptune has the fastest winds in the entire solar system.
Despite being so far from the Sun, Neptune is not sleepy. Its atmosphere is stirred by the most powerful winds known in the solar system, reaching speeds of up to 1,300 miles per hour, nearly supersonic. These winds tear across the planet at more than 3 times the speed of the strongest hurricanes on Earth. When Voyager 2 flew past Neptune in 1989, it photographed a huge dark storm in the southern hemisphere, as large as our entire planet. It was called the Great Dark Spot. By the time the Hubble Space Telescope looked again a few years later, the Great Dark Spot was gone. Storms on Neptune come and go. No one is entirely sure where Neptune gets the energy to drive such violent weather so far from the Sun. It is a quiet mystery, held inside a deep blue world. Fact 45. Triton, Neptune's largest moon, orbits backward. Neptune's biggest moon, Triton, is a strange and beautiful place. It is one of the coldest objects in the solar system, with a surface temperature of nearly -400 degrees Fahrenheit. But the really remarkable thing about Triton is how it moves. Unlike almost every other large moon in the solar system, Triton orbits Neptune in the opposite direction to the planet's rotation. This is called a retrograde orbit, and it is a strong clue that Triton did not form alongside Neptune. Instead, scientists believe Triton was once a dwarf planet, much like Pluto, drifting through the Kuiper belt until it wandered too close and was captured by Neptune's gravity. Since that moment, billions of years ago, Triton has been slowly spiraling inward. In the far future, it will be torn apart and may form a spectacular new ring system around Neptune. Fact 46. Only one spacecraft has ever visited Neptune. In all our exploration of the solar system, only a single spacecraft has ever flown close to Neptune. Voyager 2, launched in 1977, reached Neptune in August 1989. It made a close pass, only about 3,000 miles above the planet's cloud tops, and took photographs of the planet, its rings, and its moons. Then it continued on, out of the solar system, where it still travels today in interstellar space. Every single picture we have of Neptune from up close was taken by that one spacecraft in those few brief days more than 30 years ago. Everything else we know has come from telescopes, from the Hubble, from the James Webb Space Telescope. Neptune is a quiet, distant place, still largely unvisited. Somewhere out there, it is still turning its blue face to the sun, waiting for us to come back. The Outer Realm. Fact 47. Beyond Neptune lies a vast ring of icy worlds called the Kuiper belt. Out past Neptune, in the cold outer edge of the solar system, there is a vast donut-shaped region filled with icy bodies. It is called the Kuiper belt, and it stretches from about 30 times Earth's distance from the Sun to perhaps 50 times, or even more. Hundreds of thousands of small, icy worlds drift through it, along with dwarf planets like Pluto, Haumea, Makemake, and Eris. Like the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt is a kind of frozen leftover, material from the very early solar system that never quite came together into a planet. Most of its objects are made of rock and ice, sometimes dusted with frozen methane or nitrogen. It is a vast, quiet shelf of ancient material, barely touched by sunlight, still holding the memory of how the solar system began. Fact 48. Pluto was once considered a planet, and it is still beloved. Pluto was discovered in 1930 by a young astronomer named Clyde Tombaugh, and for 76 years it was called the ninth planet. In 2006, as astronomers found more and more similar objects in the Kuiper belt, the International Astronomical Union refined the definition of a planet, and Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet. It has 5 moons, including its largest companion, Charon, which is so big, relative to Pluto, that the two bodies actually orbit a point in empty space between them, a gentle gravitational dance. In 2015, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft flew past Pluto and showed us, for the first time, a small, heart-shaped plain of nitrogen ice, mountains of water ice, and a pale blue haze in its thin atmosphere. Pluto may no longer be a planet by name, but it is, unmistakably, a world. Fact 49. The Oort cloud surrounds the entire solar system in a vast sphere. Far beyond the Kuiper belt, much farther than Neptune, there is a much larger and stranger region. It is called the Oort cloud, and it is thought to be a vast spherical shell of icy objects surrounding the whole solar system. Its inner edge is perhaps 2,000 times farther from the Sun than Earth. Its outer edge may reach nearly a quarter of the way to the nearest star. We have never directly observed the Oort cloud. It is too far away, too dim, too scattered. But we know it is there, because every once in a while a comet on a long, gentle orbit comes sweeping in from its depths, blazes briefly past the Sun, and then returns to the cold. The Oort cloud is the quiet outermost edge of our solar system, a dim sphere of slumbering worlds, the true border of home. Fact 50. Everything in the solar system shares a single beginning and a single sun. We have travelled tonight from the fiery rock of Mercury to the distant ice of the Oort cloud. We have passed through worlds of burning acid, rusted deserts, ringed giants, sideways blue orbs, and small hearts of nitrogen. We have met moons with hidden oceans, storms older than recorded history, and sunsets the wrong colour. And yet, for all their differences, for all the strange and beautiful variety of these worlds, they share one thing. They were born together, out of the same gentle cloud, 4.5 billion years ago. They orbit the same warm star. They are, in the deepest sense, a family. Tonight, you have wandered through your own cosmic neighbourhood, past each of your distant siblings, each a world, each a wonder. And all of it, everything we have seen, still turns quietly around the sun, waiting patiently for another night to begin. Closing. That is the end of our journey for tonight. We have travelled far, from the inner warmth of the sun all the way to the dim edge of the Oort cloud, and now we are coming home. Let yourself return gently, not quickly, not all at once, just softly, the way a feather comes down. You are here, in your bed, on a small blue planet, turning slowly in the light of a quiet star. The planets we visited tonight are still out there, still drifting, still turning. They will be there tomorrow night and the night after, and for billions of nights after that. You do not need to hold them. You do not need to remember them. They will keep on without you. If you found peace tonight among these distant worlds, and if you would like to drift with us again, you are welcome to follow along. A gentle like, a soft subscribe, a kind word in the comments. Any of these helps our little channel find its way to other sleepers, one quiet soul at a time. But that is for tomorrow, or for whenever you happen to wake. For now, there is nothing else to do, nowhere else to be. Just the slow rhythm of your breath, the weight of your body sinking a little deeper into wherever you are resting, and the long, gentle silence of space holding everything softly all at once. Sleep well, and good night.